A lot of children pick up multiple languages when they're young, and then later on as they become adults they find it's more difficult to learn languages. My name's Harold Allman, and I'm here to talk about learning a language when you get over the age of, say, 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 years old. And you might be asking yourself, if I've reached 40 years old, am I too old to learn a foreign language? And I just have to say no, because I started learning Latin when I was 50 years old. It took me about 18, 20 months to get through a book. It was based on the natural method of learning a language. And the book was written entirely in Latin. And I also got some MP3s that were recorded by the author, and I used that to learn how to understand the spoken form of Latin. So I went through that course and got myself, let's say, to an intermediate level of Latin. So I'd say it's probably never too late to learn a language if you've got the right material and you've got the determination and you put in the effort to learn that foreign language. So when I started learning Latin, I ran into a book called Wheelock's Latin, had a look at that book, and I decided that wasn't for me. I mean, after looking at the first 3 pages, it was full of grammar instruction. It looked really, really difficult, and I don't think I would have lasted 2 weeks using that method. So instead I've got this book here, Familia Romana by Hans Orberg, and that's what I use to study the Latin language. Now, if you do use this book to learn Latin, I just have to warn you that after you get past chapter 10, it gets even more difficult. So you start at the beginning of the book, everything's relatively simple, and in each chapter you learn about 20 to 30 new words, and the level of difficulty gets increasingly difficult. However, when you get to chapters in the teens, he starts going through the months and the years and how they reference the days. It's the calendar system in Latin, and that is extremely complicated and very difficult to understand. So not only are you trying to learn a foreign language, but you're trying to figure out how to reference days in the Latin calendar, and that's really tough. He's also covering the currency system that's used by the Romans, and so you have to learn that on top of learning the foreign language. So this book's a pretty difficult read. What else? They're also mentioning the gods and goddesses that the Romans worshipped, so you've got a bit of culture thrown in there. So there's a lot of extras that are thrown into learning the Latin language that you won't be covering that much if you're learning other foreign languages, because the books that teach those languages don't delve too much into those topics. Some do, some don't. So just be aware, if you do use this book, it's a fairly difficult book to get through, but if you've got the determination and the willpower to stick to it and study the language each and every day, then you can make it to the end of the book. I believe the book originally had 31 chapters, and then later on it was expanded to 35 chapters, so you'll only find 31 chapters on MP3 written by the original author, and I think there's a couple of other versions of the audio that probably go up to chapter 35. I know one's the Church Latin, and I believe Scorpio Martianus did another version using the classical Latin pronunciation. So when it comes to learning a foreign language, I don't think you're too old to start learning a foreign language, but I would recommend just concentrating on one foreign language. There are people who are trying to learn 2 and 3 at one time. I think you're just spreading yourself too thin. It's really difficult to learn a foreign language, and you really would be helping your cause if you just stuck to doing one language at a time, and then if you want, you can go on and learn another language. For me, I only know, say, 3 languages. Well, let's say 2.5. So obviously, I'm a native English speaker. I learned, say, half a language, Latin, because there's nobody around here to talk to. So I can read it and I can probably write it a bit, but as far as speaking, I don't get a lot of opportunity to do that. And I do know some French at an intermediate level, and I do have French relatives, and there's people at work I can talk with. So, those are my two languages, English and French, and I know some Latin. So if you want to go learn a foreign language, don't stop because you're, quote, too old. My name's Harold Allman. If you like the video, please click that subscribe button below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.